Charlie Munger once said, a famous investor that I follow, that, no great pilot, no matter how well experienced or no matter how well he's done in the past, no great pilot fails to use his checklist. And that is the philosophy that I use for my personal investing and for the retirement planning that we do every day.
Welcome to the show. This is the Build Big, Live Bigger podcast. This is where you get real clarity about retirement so you can build a plan that blesses your life instead of becoming it. We'll share what you need to hear to replace worry with confidence, protect what you've built, and actually live your dreams, not your fears in retirement. Let's dive in. Welcome to episode 26 of the Build Big, Live Bigger podcast. My name is Jonathan Burgess, owner, financial advisor of Big Money Retirement Solutions, and I'm joined here with Luke Milano-Grimes, fellow lead advisor on staff here at Big Money Retirement. And today we're going to be talking about a great topic, and it's the one that we get asked every day, which is, can I retire?
Great question.
Yeah. And it really... What's Chris's answer? What's Chris's answer to every tax question?
It depends.
It depends, yeah. So, it depends on what your goal is, how much money you've saved, etc. But we are going to give you some real world examples and a checklist. I love checklists.
Mm-hmm.
It's very helpful to just have something you can go through and you know exactly what you need to get. And if you don't have a checklist, you're going to fail. And the reason, because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I think about it whenever, I go to the grocery store for Samantha and I don't write down the items on the checklist.
Oh yeah, it's not going to work out.
It's not going to work out because inevitably I'll call her and then she doesn't pick up. And then I'm like,
it's too late.
Have you ever done that before?
Yeah, that's a big waste of time.
It's a terrible feeling.
Yeah.
Like when your spouse is like, hey, will you go pick this up for me? And you're like, yeah, sure. And then you're in the destination to go and pick up the thing and then you forget about the thing.
Yeah. Why am I here again?
Yeah. And then they don't pick up.
Yeah.
So you need a checklist.
There. I've been there.
So Luke and I are going to give you a great checklist today. But before we go through that, Luke actually had two really good experiences with some clients who came in and, clients who they really represent a lot of what we stand for, which they're family-focused achievers. They're people who have sacrificed for their family all throughout their working career, and now they want to retire. They've put kids through high school, maybe private school. They've put kids through college, grandkids through college, and then now it's time for them to reap the rewards. And I just think it's a great story of a wealthy blue-collar family, and or two families.
Yeah.
So Luke, walk us through kind of those recent experiences.
Yeah, for sure. So really what we do again is providing that real confidence to retire. And that is really the essence of what we do. And I love how you said it earlier. It's not like this pie in the sky stuff. We're not just giving you this fake confidence. We actually go through all of our systems. We provide checklists and we make sure that everything is being covered. But essentially, you go through most of your life, a lot of people do like to save, invest, accumulate, and build that wealth. That is one mindset, but then you need to actually shift on living on the money, which is retiring, essentially, if you want to make that shift. And that's a big change, a big mindset change, because I need to actually make sure this money is safe and that it's going to last me and it's going to give me the life that I want. But yeah, there was actually two great examples of this recently. There was one now retiree, which is awesome. She actually worked at Publix for just short of 40 years. And the whole time she was there, she didn't make an exorbitant amount of money, but she was paid in Publix stock as part of her compensation plan. And Publix has done very well. It's a private company, but that has done very well for her. So there's been actually one situation like that, and then also another situation where a couple came in, and very similar situation. He worked at Costco for 26 years, and as we know, Costco has been an incredible stock.
Oh yeah,
and it is almost 100% of their portfolio. It's at least 80%. So it's a big, big chunk of their wealth. And they are retired already. So in both those situations, really, we sit down with them and we come at it of the logic of they want to hold on to these companies because naturally they know them inside and out. They've performed very well in the past and they have strong business models, which is all great. But a great company, a great investment, may not necessarily be the best retirement plan for this person alone. Because as we know, stocks go up and down massively. Like Costco in the past has gone down more than 55%. And so can you imagine half of your wealth dropping in a pretty short amount of time
while you're retired,
while you're actually living on that money? So that'd make most people nervous. So if I can go quickly through really a recent meeting I had, it was actually yesterday, with the woman that we worked with who had worked at Publix. So we came up with a new allocation. There is a good chunk that's still staying in Publix, but number one, it's a whole process to be able to take that money out of Publix, because you have to fill out the paperwork.
It took you guys like a couple months, really.
Yeah. There's a bunch of different ways and rules around it, but you actually have to retire from that private company to actually get that money out in her situation. So that is something throughout our meeting process that we took care of. We took care of the whole process. But now the rubber has really met the road, because she retired on Tuesday. And so now...
what an awesome feeling.
Yeah, which is amazing. She's worked so hard for so long. And when she came into that last meeting, she was just absolutely beaming. She was just so happy. She was so happy to see us. She felt so free.
She walked in and she was beaming.
Yes, she came in, she was beaming, because essentially the day before, which was on Tuesday, she retired officially. That was her official retirement date. And I could tell that this was like the freest that she had.
I bet a lot of people, when they retire, do you remember when you graduated from high school and you threw your cap up? Did they do that in New Zealand?
We didn't do that in high school.
What?
Mm-mm.
No, we're going to go down a whole different rabbit trail. What do y'all throw up? Surfboards?
No, we didn't throw anything up.
You didn't throw anything up?
No, we just walked out as far as I can remember.
But this is why you're so calm.
Yeah.
We basically just celebrate it.
You want to
know a funny part of my throwing the cap up thing? There was only 8 of us. I graduated with 8 people.
That's funny.
It was very anticlimactic, but it was so good to do.
At least you got to throw it up. I didn't. Yeah. That's great.
So what did y'all do? Just go surfing afterwards, or?
It's quite anticlimactic, because you do have somewhat of a ceremony where you say, where basically you get certificates and things like that on how well you've done in the past or throughout the year. But really, the last year, you go through your exams. There's an exam schedule, and they're super random. And then there's just nothing after that. And then that's it. You go into your last exam and you just don't come back. So
we need to I don't know.
I need to get used to celebrating some more.
It's terrible. Yeah, I'm so sorry that you grew up that way.
That was the end of high school.
And he grew up that way, and he didn't have biscuits and gravy until he got to the States.
Right, yeah.
So
we have a different type of biscuit, but anyway.
Yeah. They call, what do they call the things the tubes you pull the oats?
Yeah.
Y'all call them biscuits.
Yeah, it's a biscuit, yeah. Oh, that biscuit.
Anyway,
was a few different biscuits.
Back to how our clients felt.
Okay, yeah. Anyway.
But whenever I graduated, you didn't feel this feeling, because you were
it was
underprivileged, apparently. Shut up.
I guess so. Sorry. That's okay.
When you throw the cap up and it's like, man, I'm out of school, finally for the first time, I feel like an adult. I think our retirees kind of feel a semblance of that same feeling. I just fired my boss. I can actually, I don't have to report to anyone. I am my own boss. I get to get all this time back. And for you to facilitate that, I think it's just so commendable.
Yeah, 100%. And you could tell that she felt like she was in good hands. She came in, she met with me and Chris, our tax advisor, and she was like, "Oh, I just always love seeing Luke. I'm so glad that we're here." So she was just so happy.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
And can I see the one page?
Yeah.
So whenever we're talking to clients and we're like, "Hey, you can retire," it all comes back to, if you can hear it. I know some of you are probably driving. That's a large piece of paper. It's our 1-page income plan. This is our checklist, really. We go through and we say, okay, how much cash does the client need every year after taxes? Mm-hmm. So you need to know, when you retire, how much cash do I need? What am I going to pay in taxes? You need to project that out. You need to know what that figure is. What am I going to draw on Social Security? Not only what am I going to draw, but when am I going to draw it? That's here. You need to know which account you're going to pull from and when and why. So, how am I going to allocate all of my accounts? A large part of your asset growth when you retire is based on asset allocation. So how are all of my accounts going to be set up? When am I going to draw from them? And how is that going to impact my net worth over time? So I think all of these things are, extremely important. I would say withdrawal rate's probably one of the number one.
Yeah, that's true. So there is a couple years, for instance, in her situation where her husband's taking Social Security, but she's not going to for a couple more years. And she does have a slightly higher withdrawal rate than we would want consistently. But in a couple of years, she's going to get Social Security. So that bumps the withdrawal rate down to 3 to 4%, which is really what we should be targeting, 3 to 4%. Because I think you said it once in a seminar, if you take a little too much, if you're going up into the 6-7% range, it's like you're going too high on the RPM line in your car.
Yeah.
Didn't you give that example?
Yeah, it might not blow up if you ride around at 6,000 RPM, but things sure not good for the engine.
Exactly.
Like you don't want to be, if I had my mechanic in the car and it's like we're, the advisor, the vehicle advisor, and we're riding in the passenger seat, clients riding around at 6,000 or 7,000. We're like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm the one who's got to work on this. Keep doing this.
Yeah. Now we're worried.
Yeah. So you do have to have somebody who will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear in these situations. But, what we're saying about, number one, you need to know when you're going to retire. I mean, if you're looking at a checklist, and I really think that calculation there, going from left to right's the easiest way to kind of have a checklist, but you need to know when you're going to retire. How much cash do I need? How easy is it, in your opinion, when you're working with a retiree? Where do you generally start if somebody's like, I don't know how much cash I'm going to need in retirement? What's one of the easiest things for them to do to figure that out?
Yeah. So like going through your bank statements, your credit card statements, adding up on average, how much are you spending consistently? Obviously, that's going to ebb and flow. It's going to go up and down. You might take trips. You might have big expenses here and there. But like on average, we want to see roughly what are you living on based on your bank statements and credit card statements.
Yeah, print them off. Go through them with a highlighter. I think that's one of the easiest things to do. It is a bit of homework, but if you want to spend your time dreaming of retirement, not wondering and worrying, that you need to do some of this work before you pull the parachute. The other thing is everyday Saturday in retirement. So think about how much money you spend on a Saturday versus how much money you spend on a Monday through Friday. Well, now you have all this time.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. So, you may say, yeah, I'm fine living on $8,000 a month, but then you turn around and, you're like, well, on the weekends, I tend to spend about 20% of that amount of money. Or, every Saturday and Sunday if I go throughout the month. So I need to make that number 20% higher.
Yeah, that's true.
And maybe for you, the number's not 8,000. It might be 3,000.
Yeah.
It might be 30,000. It depends on people always say, can I retire? Like we literally, our entire role is built around that one question and giving people confidence behind that. But it's all dependent upon what you want. And you have to start with what you're spending now. And then you start to build the dreams on top of that. And the other thing too is what comes on this piece of paper, what Luke was talking about, how do you impart confidence on someone? How important, and I'm a large proponent of never talking about something that's very confusing. I'm big on this with you guys, all the advisors. I'm like, please don't confuse someone. Like, I think whenever, like, my number one prayer every day going into work is like, God, please don't allow my team to confuse people today. Like,
keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple. Keep it stupid simple. Keep it simple stupid. Is that what KISS stands for? Yeah. But the thing here is, how do we impart the confidence? It's because of our paraplanners, our team that we have, the team of guys that we have behind the scenes that are like, hey, Luke, what you're giving, your client who just retired from Publix, this right here has a 95% odds of success. Yeah. So 950 scenarios out of 1,000, she makes it to age 95 without running out of money. And, let's say 500 of the 1,000 scenarios we ran are not good scenarios. Only 10% of those run the risk of running out of money. And then that's how you come to a client and you're like, hey, this is actually a great plan. Now some clients want it to be around 99%. Right. And here's the other thing. Some people think they have a good retirement plan before they meet with us and they're like, hey, this is what I want to do. They're super confident in it. They're like, this is exactly what I'm doing. And, you felt that feeling whenever you're going through and you're reviewing it before the prospective client comes in and you're like, ugh, I don't think this is what they think of this. I just ran the Monte Carlo scenarios, which is what it's called in our world, how we run these simulations. I just ran the Monte Carlo scenario, and it says this client has a 50% odds of success to do what they want to do in retirement. Can you imagine getting on an airplane in GSP, and you're flying to New Zealand, so you're going to visit your family, to not throw your hat up? I can't get over this. But anyway, we'll come back to that. But can you imagine getting on an airplane and they're like, hey, by the way, there's a 50% chance that we're going to go into the water on our way over to New Zealand.
Yeah, I'm not flying. Yeah, that's not going to work.
Yeah, but people are okay. Some people they're not okay with it. I mean, we run some of these scenarios sometimes, but people are like not phased by it. I'm like, literally, this is your livelihood. You need to make sure that you're at least at 95%.
If retirement clarity matters to you, don't wait. Text BOOK to 864-920-3155 or click the link in the description below to get a free copy of Jonathan's book, Retire Right.
So that's how we impart the confidence. We've already ran all the tests and we already have the data that says, okay, this is the right plan for you.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And it's a great example because, for instance, going into retirement, it is like taking off on a flight, right? You want to get to that destination safely, securely, with certainty. And you don't want to have a 50-50, like a coin flip on whether or not you're going to get there successfully. So what we do is, yes, you want to be invested in a way that aligns with your values and what you want, but it needs to have that safety and certainty in the plan.
I had a recent experience. So I was flying on a small plane and the pilot would go up in the sky and he was like, Jonathan, what y'all do is really similar to what I do. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, when you go on test flights, they'll let you take off the plane. Did they let you fly the plane whenever we did the test flight with the whole team?
Briefly while we're up in the air.
While you were
Well, really nothing was happening.
Well, AP on our team, he's one of our paraplanners. He had never flown before in a plane ever. And his first time flying in a small plane, he literally flew they let him take off in the airplane with the instructor because it's so easy.
Yeah.
It's when you have a good headwind coming at you, you can easily take it's not really going to rock that much.
Right.
And they're sitting right beside you. So
yeah.
something goes wrong. But they tell you, they're like, all right, pull back slowly on the yoke. The yoke is the steering wheel. They're like, all right, pull back on the yoke. Kind of as we hit 75 miles an hour, you start to pull back and the plane will lift off. And it's a very simple operation. If you don't have a lot of wind, you can really take the plane off fairly simply. Anybody could get in there after watching now starting the plane is another thing, but if you got somebody else in the passenger seat, it's fairly easy to get the plane off the ground. He said, Jonathan, it's not about with being a pilot. It's not about the takeoff. It's about the landing. And we were going to Virginia to Chesapeake Bay, and there was a 40-mile-per-hour crosswind. So the plane is just, wow, we're getting whipped around. And there's this sock on an airfield. It shows you what way the wind is blowing. And he pointed it out to me as we were landing. And it was like, wham, moving to the right, wham, moving to the left, wham, moving north, wham, moving south.
Wow.
The sock was whipping around. And on top of that, it was 40-mile-per-hour gusts.
Wow.
So the guy's name is Alex. Alex is sitting right beside me in the cockpit. And his hand is just... Not only is his hand moving quick to readjust the plane, his feet are moving, he's pushing the plane back and forth. We're at a 45-degree angle, and we get the thing on the ground.
Wow.
And I was in a cold sweat. And anyway, we get out of the plane, and he was like, Jonathan, the reason that pilots get paid is for that. They don't get paid for getting it up getting it up in the air is simple. Landing is a totally different. I was like, yeah, I could have never, I'd be dead right now. If I tried to land a plane. And I'd say that because AP on our team never flown in a commercial flight. His first flight ever, he helps the pilot take off. And that's how it is with retirement. Most people are like, oh, I've had my financial advisor for 20 years. Well, it's a lot easier to accumulate assets than it is to decumulate. It's a completely different skill set. Not every doctor is licensed to do surgery. Right? Not every doctor can perform surgery. There are doctors in, philosophy. you don't want them picking up a scalpel.
Mm-mm.
When somebody says they're a financial advisor, like, you want to work with someone who specializes in retirement planning. It's a totally different skill to get that plane on the ground. And I just thought that was one of the best explanations, because Alex knew what I did. He was like, oh, I kind of get it now. You guys only work with retirees, kind of similar to what I do. I was like, we need to like do a segment with you on this, because that was probably one of the best examples I've ever been given. And it was somebody else who gave it to me.
Yeah. That really is probably one of the best examples I've ever heard. I haven't even heard that one before, but it's totally right. Like, taking off, it may not be as complicated. It's not as much rocket science, just accumulating, saving, investing, but landing, especially when the weather gets a little choppy or things come at you, things change. You want to have that team making sure that you're going to land properly, in worst case scenario.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, why we spend so much time talking with retirees about risk, is there are certain things out of our control. And I'm going to go back to Alex, because he and I have such a good time flying whenever we do get to fly. The plane that we fly on has a parachute. So the plane has a parachute,
Mm-hmm.
not us. We're not riding around with, rip cords. I'm not going to dip out of the plane and just go, woo, and just rip the I'm saying the actual airplane. If we got into anything that was too hairy, he could just rip the cord and the thing would float to the ground.
Right.
And why we spend so much time talking to retirees about risk is, you need the same thing in your plan. You may have the most experience. For us, we have, over on the advising staff, we have over 100 years of experience, right, in the industry. And for us to have that level of confidence in our investment recommendations is one thing, but the other thing is, we have no idea what's going to happen in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So just like on that airplane, how you want to have that parachute, Alex and I were talking about, he's like, well, if it got too hairy, we had the parachute. For us, we want that same thing for our clients. If things got way too hairy, even if you have an advisor with all the experience in the world, inevitably things are going to happen outside of your control.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, Jonathan, what if a bird hit the propeller? What are you going to do? You got to rip the cord.
Mm-hmm.
We got the parachute. At least the thing will get us to the ground, which is why in a retirement plan, in my opinion, this is my opinion, every retiree needs some level of guaranteed money, some money that has absolutely no stock market risk at all. It's not tied to the performance of any one company, or, just like you were talking about the clients with the Costco and the public stock. You need something that's as safe as cash. Because otherwise, how do you have the peace of mind to take the jump to be like the client you had come in the other day? They walk in, they're beaming. One of the first things you did with them was you were like, okay, that client had over $1 million safe.
Yeah, over $1 million.
Yeah. So would you put like 50 to 60% of their assets in totally safe money?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's about 600 in safe. And by the way, she is about 60, just before 60. So it does turn out to be like,
Prudent investor rule.
The prudent investor rule, yeah.
Which, if you don't know what that is, if you're listening to us for the first time, number one, thank you for listening in. It's a great way to invest your time, is to learn more about finance. And it's one of the things that I'm passionate about. I know Luke is too. This guy reads finance books on the weekends. But prudent investor rule is where you take it's your asset allocation. So what percentage of my assets do I need to be safe? What percentage of my assets do I need in the stock market? And normally what we recommend is that you have whatever your age is in safe money. So if you're 60% of your assets in safe money, 40% of your assets in the stock market, that's what allows you to live your dreams, not your worries in retirement. And if I go to the thing that the firm's known for, what I believe we're known for more than anything else is helping their clients live their dreams, not their worries in retirement. And the only way to do that is you have to know that you have some level of safety.
100%.
Because if I'm dependent upon what's going on in the world, how unstable is the world right now?
Yeah, there's a lot you cannot control, but what you can control is your plan, like how you manage your money, your assets, and your income plan as well. So that safe money, it's indispensable, especially when you need to live on it. That's totally different from just working and accumulating.
Yeah. So the other thing that you want to make sure you have checked off for your checklist, so you need to know how much money you need to live off annually, what you're going to pay in taxes every year. You also need to know when you're going to draw Social Security. So walk me through, how how do you guys on the lead advisor team, how do y'all make a decision on when a client takes Social Security?
So there's different variations of ways you can go about it, but ultimately we don't want to decide until we put it through our Monte Carlo scenarios, which again is a little bit complicated, but you're running a simulation of this person's retirement plan, and you're doing that 1,000 times, and it gives you what is the best odds of success route for your retirement. What is the best way to go about it? We will play around essentially with when is the best time to take, because that's going to impact how much you get. When we are onboarding clients, we'll show break-even times. So if I take it 62 versus 67 versus 70, what is the break-even time? If I live longer than 80 or 83, somewhere around there, usually it's better to wait. But that's only in isolation. Mm-hmm. It needs to be inside your full retirement plan simulated in our system.
Yeah.
Because that is going to show you really what is the best odds of success way. If you wait, you get a higher permanent income stream. So if you live long, that's going to help you a lot. But if you don't really have much, you might need to take early if you need to retire soon. Mm-hmm. So it really just depends.
And then health status of each spouse plays into it. We look at so many factors, but the thing is, you're not making that one decision independent of all the other decisions that has to be made.
Yeah, that's why it's hard to be like very black and white on the answer, because it always depends. Just like how Chris says, it's the typical accountant response. It always depends, and we know all the variables. We need to pull them all together.
Yep, you're looking at everything when you are making a Social Security decision. Mm-hmm. And then we go to asset allocation whenever we're thinking about how a client needs to be allocated. Generally, we're thinking about their age and the amount of income that they need every year. And then how do you decide what portion of their assets they can take from? Like if they say, hey, I have $1 million, what generally are we going to shoot for that they are taking out of those accounts every year?
Yeah, sure. So we do like to say that, in the past, there's been this popular rule called the rule of 4%, which is if I take 4% of my money, let's just say I have other income streams, it doesn't matter, but if I take only 4% of my money, that should theoretically last me indefinitely. Because let's just say my money grows at 7% on average, I'm taking out 4%, and then there's room for 3% for inflation. So that's kind of the basic rule. But again, that is very vague in general.
Yeah, so and people are living longer. I mean, that rule came out 20 years ago. Think about what medical technology was 20 years ago compared to today.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally different.
Exactly. And also think about if you're fully in the stock market and your money falls by 50%, you're going to actually have to take an income cut, right?
Yeah.
If you're living off the rule of 4%. So it all depends. That's why we build it into our Monte Carlo simulations.
And then the other thing too is you want a tax plan. Mm-hmm. As well. Something that should be on your checklist is, should I do a Roth conversion? Should I not? That's one of the things that you can ask your accountant, but from what I've seen, they tell you to ask your financial advisor. And when they tell you to ask your financial advisor, they tell you to ask your accountant.
Yeah. It's a circular catch-22.
So then you're like, well, who do I ask?
Mm-hmm.
I got tired of saying that a long time ago, which is why we brought Chris on the team. But generally, you kind of have to figure it out yourself unless you work with some. And I'm shamelessly plugging us right now because I know it's true.
Mm-hmm.
An accountant is not going to give you. They're going to tell you to talk to the advisor, and then you go in the circle. And I've just seen it so many times because it's what I used to do before Chris was on the team. I'd be like, you have to talk to your accountants, and then they would turn around and say, well, my accountant told me to talk to you. And I was like, well, I probably just needed an accountant on the team. But what we do is we simulate what this year's tax return will be along with your income plan. And then we tell you how much you should convert based on not bumping yourself into the next Medicare bracket. So if you're thinking about doing a Roth conversion this year, you also need to look up something called IRMA, Medicare limits. So IRMMA, IRMA. Income limits, to make sure you don't bump yourself into the next tax bracket. And then finally, which account should I draw from every year? That's really important. You need to make sure that you're drawing from the accounts that don't have any risk, so you don't run into what Luke talked about where you have to sell something at a loss. Now, that's a very short list. Mm-hmm. Obviously, those one-page plans are more in-depth than that. But I wanted to give everyone kind of an idea, and Luke had 2 great examples, and both of those folks were just over the moon. Right.
Oh, yeah, they were.
So we always like to talk about client wins, but wanted to give you that quick, short list of things that would be helpful to you as you're going into retirement, or if you're already retired. Hopefully today you found a nugget in here that was useful to you. And as always, thanks for listening. Always have that white belt mentality around retirement, and just know you got 2 folks here that are investing and learning more on your behalf. I think that's one of our things, is always be learning. We're always reading something.
100%. And you know that Charlie Munger once said, you know, a famous investor that I follow, that you know, no great pilot, no matter how well experienced or no matter how well he's done in the past, no great pilot fails to use his checklist. And that is the philosophy that I use for my personal investing and for the retirement planning that we do every day. So don't forget to use a checklist.
Love it. We'll see you on the next episode.